Hey friends, before we start today's episode, I want to make sure you get a quick heads up. This conversation includes topics around death investigations and forensic imaging. We talk about this in a respectful, educational way, but some details may be sensitive or emotional for certain listeners. So please take care while listening. Welcome back to a couple of Rad Tech's podcasts, the show where we bring real stories, lessons, and behind the scenes insight from the world of medical imaging and radiologic technology. I'm your host, Sean, and today's episode is one that might just change the way you see this profession. Most of us enter medical imaging to help the living, to diagnose, to comfort, to heal. But what if your scans could also help speak for the deceased, solve crimes, or give a grieving family closure? That's exactly what today's guest does. Welcome back to a couple of Rad Tech's podcasts, the show where we bring real stories, lessons, and behind the scenes insight from the world of medical imaging and radiology technology. I'm your host, Sean, and today's episode is one that might just change the way you see this profession. Most of us enter medical imaging to help the living, to diagnose, to comfort, and to heal. But what if your scans could also help speak for the deceased, solve crimes, or give a grieving family closure? That's exactly what today's guest does. Let's give a warm welcome to Sheryl Peachy. She's a Radiologic Technologist and educator, director of an imaging program, and a part-time forensic imaging specialist for over 17 years, you guys. She holds certifications in modalities such as radiography, CT, and she currently again serves as senior lecturer and interim director at the University of New Mexico. But what really fascinates me is her work at the New Mexico Office of Medical Investigator, where she uses CT and X-ray imaging to determine causes of death, identity decedents. Was that correct?
Decedents.
Identity decedents, and support justice through science. You guys, this is going to be great. It's part of our field that very few people, even some of us in the field, have ever seen, let alone heard about. And after listening to Sheryl's story and experience here on this podcast, I think a lot of you will look at the scanners differently in our profession. So welcome, Sheryl, to a couple of Rad Techs.
Thank you so much for having me, Chandrea. I'm excited to talk to you and your listeners.
We are excited to have you. So I have to start with this question. How did you first get into forensic imaging?
So this is recent for me. It's a new venture, and I'm always trying new things, trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep learning all the time. That's what helps me stay focused in this career. So I first heard about forensic imaging when I was an X-ray tech student. And my program director, who later became a mentor in the education profession to me, was trained in the military and talked about doing some forensic X-ray in his previous experience, and it was really fascinating to me. And then around the time that I received my bachelor's degree from UNM here, the Office of the Medical Investigator and the Radiology Department here at UNM got a big grant to do research on forensic imaging. And I had heard about it, thought it was really fascinating, but, didn't get involved at that point.
So this was at the beginning while you just got into it, your mentor.
Right. This is around 2009, 2010. I think they got the grant.
But before that, let me ask you, were you a student when you heard about it, or you had gotten into the field?
I was a student when I heard about it. Yeah. From my professor in X-ray.
What excited you about that? Like, was it exciting, or were you like, I don't know about that?
I was excited. I was really fascinated. It just sounded really interesting to me. Just hearing the stories that my professor told about doing it, and, just getting sometimes just bags of parts and having to try to reconstruct identity, or it just sounded really interesting to me and really amazing what we're able to do, even as far as determining the gender of the patient based on their pelvic bones.
Yeah.
So it was something that just always sounded really interesting. I love the, crime drama investigation shows in addition to the ER shows.
Right. I'm one of those ER show junkies, and Dateline and 48 Hours. Yeah. So it's really interesting to me because I've been in the field for 20 years, and I heard about it because I have friends that work in the crime scene investigator, that part of the government. And they talk about how medical imaging is used And there are several cases out there. But I want to start, with those of us in the field, because I think it's going to be twofold here. People that work in the field that are going to be interested in this, people that are students, as well as people outside of our field. So maybe talk to those students and help them to understand, when it was mentioned to you, was there a curriculum or anything, or was it just mentioned to you and you were like, I'll think about it?
Yeah, so no, there wasn't a curriculum. And I was like, how do I do that? I want to learn how to do that. And at that time, it's basically just, sometimes they would ask for x-rays on a decedent before they're taken to the coroner's office or however they handle it. So you just have to kind of be at the right place at the right time. And there's still there are not that very many dedicated forensic imaging laboratories in the US. I think I know of about 3, including the one here in Albuquerque. So I think for the most part, it's kind of like right place, right time for a lot of people.
But you guys in New Mexico are showing the need for it and how it can fill in those gaps, because forensic pathologist is needed and a lot of things are needed in order to figure out what happened to people. And some things are just not known. And we know radiology and x-ray and CT, being able to see within someone, whether they're alive or not, is very important to understanding maybe internal injuries. So can you tell us how CT and x-ray, because I always thought just x-ray. How about CT? How do you guys use CT and x-ray in investigating deaths and gathering evidence?
So at our imaging center, we use CT for pretty much every single decedent that comes through the Office of the Medical Investigators. So we have a few standard protocols. We have a skeletal remains protocol. We have an adult standard protocol and a pediatric standard protocol. The adult is just a head-to-toe scan, and then we do some multiplanar reconstructions and different windows and that kind of thing. And then those images are used to determine whether or not a full autopsy is needed or if it can just be a surface exam. And then that is a huge cost savings and time saving and resource, because forensic pathologists we've got a shortage of them, just like we do x-ray techs and CT techs and pretty much every other medical provider.
And I was thinking how backlogged many departments are with homicides.
Right.
Using medical imaging in forensics can, like you say, not only save money, but it can speed up time in helping families get closure, helping prosecutors and defense attorneys come to a conclusion on something where it's just not hanging in the balance and gets forgotten about. I love how you talked about there are just a few. And one thing that New Mexico did, you were earlier talking about a grant. How did you guys, how does that work? How did that work out?
So that it was an NIH grant, and I wasn't around at that time. I don't know all the details, but the Office of the Medical Investigator, along with the UNM's Radiology Department, received this NIH grant to study, among other things, I think specifically if CT scan could determine cause of death and save money.
Wow. I just think it's so fascinating. It's so amazing. We just don't give radiology and imaging the credit that it needs. I don't think people really, really understand what all goes into and how many places we touch, not just in the hospital, but, we're bringing closure to people's family. I wonder, when you tell people that you are a forensic imager, what do they say? What kind of reaction do you get?
It's always a good one. It's a fun one to pull out at dinner parties. Everybody's interested. Everybody's fascinated. Well, what is that like? Why do you do it? Like, what do you see? Like, how do you deal with it? And of course, all my friends, I think it's us ladies of a certain age, we're all into kind of the crime podcast and the date.
Yeah, I would think that would be a real good conversation starter at the table. All eyes shift towards Sheryl when you say what you do for a living. Everybody wants to talk to you because it's just not something that people know that we do. And I think really talking about it and you coming on this podcast, opening up not only patients' minds and people out of the healthcare realm to understand that how important medical imaging is to everyone, but also to us technologists, because sometimes we get into our head that, oh, it's just an associate's degree, or it's just, I'm just an x-ray tech. This is where, to me, I really push going to radiology technology school for those entering from high school, younger individuals. It gives you the ability to create options and a long-term career that gives you opportunities. And this is one of the opportunities that you can only get by going to radiologic technology school, right?
Right, exactly. To scan at OMI, that you need to be certified not only in X-ray, but CT as well. And so it takes that training. And I do love that you said that, because that's what I tell my students getting into the field all the time. There's a place for every single person. You will find your niche or try several different places. There's something, if you want to be in an office, you can be in an office. Want to scan decedents, you can do that and be part of that field, or really, I mean, anything in between. So it's a great field to get into for that reason. It's always something to learn.
You hit the nail on the head. So one of the things I got from that piece of this conversation is forensic imaging is what happens when radiology meets justice. And we're just not looking for disease. We're uncovering the truth. Now, you talked about dinner parties and the conversations that happen when you tell people what you do. Tell our audience, what does a day in the life of a forensic imager look like?
Okay, so it starts really early. We need to have all our scans done before the attendings and residents and everyone meet to go over the cases. So I clock in about 5:45 in the morning, run QCs on the equipment. We'll first suit up head to toe, shoe covers, apron, gloves, N95 respirator, bouffant cap, or everything. Do QCs on the equipment, print out my docket, figure out what's going on for the day. And then we have morphology technicians who assist and do a lot of the heavy lifting. So that's something that a lot of people ask me, is it hard? Like, you have to put the decedents on and off the scanner? And no, they're amazing. They're wonderful. They help out so much. And one of the things I love about working there is that everybody is so positive and has such great energy and works so well as a team. And we see hard things, we see sad things. Sometimes some days are really heavy, but everybody's there to support each other and checking on each other, and we're in it together. So that's a great thing about that. So we get our scans done. It takes about 6 minutes to do a head to toe. And then we just get all the scans done. Then I go in and do all the reconstructions, send them through. And then we go into the meeting. And that's really interesting, because we listen to the whole case presentation and can answer questions if anybody has questions on the imaging, or if they want to ask for something additional. We're in there. And then that wraps up, the meeting wraps up usually around 9:00. So it's a short little shift. So I'll do that and then go about my day teaching and on to the next usually.
Do you guys ever get any stat cases? I live in a big city. So sometimes, and New Mexico, I'm sure, I've been there before, it's pretty big. A lot of people live there. Do you ever get cases where it's like you're called in? Do you guys have to be on call?
No, we don't take call. So it's basically, every case that comes in from after we get done scanning till we get there the next day, we just kind of do 24 hours worth at a time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So from the cases that you've seen over the period of time that you've been doing this, does one stand out to you that you're comfortable sharing with the audience? Been great information. When you talk about scanners, just for technologists, are they the same scanners or are they special scanners? I know, like when I did research, MRI research, they were kind of the same scanners, but there were certain things that were different about them. Not just the protocols, but certain things accessories that came with them. We use certain functions on the scanner a little different that were going into like research mode. What about for forensic imaging?
So I do think that there is a scanner out there that is specific to forensic imaging. We don't have it. Actually, the scanner that I am working on at OMI is almost exactly the same as the one I'm working on my other PRN job at a hospital. So it was very easy to cross over.
Wow, pretty cool. Okay, so typically you say you do how many scans of patients within a 3 to 4 hour shift?
So it varies a lot. I've heard the average is about 12. I've had anywhere from 5 to 16. And on my 16-day, on top of that, I had 2 skeletal surveys. So when we use X-ray, typically is only for under 2 years old. We do a skeletal survey if there's any suspicion of non-accidental trauma.
And is that similar to the skeletal X-ray that we do at Children's Healthcare?
Exact same protocol.
Interesting. Wow. This is interesting because, guys, the scanner does not lie. It captures the final chapter of someone's story. And medical imaging and forensic, it's really blowing my mind. I mean, whether it's CT or X-ray, it just goes to show that our training is so important because you're just not going to have a patient lay on a table. All right, y'all, quick break, but this is something really close to my heart. If you're loving this podcast, then you're going to love what we've created. Rachel, the Radiographer, a children's book that finally puts us on the map. It's fun, it's educational, and it's different because it's written by a real medical imaging technologist. Yep, me, Chandria. I am a radiologic technologist, MRI technologist, and CT technologist. And Rachel, she's on a mission to show kids that healthcare is so much more than just doctors and nurses. Most people don't know this, but we are the largest healthcare profession in the nation. Yet somehow we're invisible when it comes to early education. That's where Rachel steps in. This book introduces children, especially in elementary schools, libraries, and even hospitals, to the world of X-rays, MRIs, nuclear medicine, radiation therapy, in a way that's friendly, engaging, and easy to understand. Educators love it because it's the perfect storytime read that ties right into STEM education, career awareness, and eases fear around medical exams. Parents love it. Technologists love it. And most importantly, kids get it. And here's the cherry on top. A portion of every book sale goes towards a $500 scholarship we award every year to a student in a radiologic technology program. So if you want to support the next generation and help spread awareness about our field, head over to RachelTheRadiographer.com. That's RachelTheRadiographer.com. Let's get this book in more hands and more imaginations. Now let's get back into the podcast. These are special cases where you are really trying to get to the bottom of what happened to this individual for a proper case to be built, for justice to be served, for families to get answers. And if you've ever been someone waiting on a justice system, especially in cases such as these that you see, any of you listening out there, it's so important that we know our anatomy, that we know positioning, because we don't have the patient to say patient was, we couldn't get the patient in the right position. People need to have answers for this. This is not some job where I don't want people to think, oh, this is a cake job. I'm going to go into this. And, people kind of think sometimes that, oh, this is really easy. No, this is a very serious and important job. And you've really got to know what you're doing because someone's life could hang in the balance that is either being charged with this case because of how you take X-rays or how you take a CT, or someone's family may not get the answers. Justice could be served inaccurately by the X-rays or the CTs that you take on either side. So I just commend what you do. But I want to transition over into, I can imagine how heavy these cases can be. Working in children's healthcare really, it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I just never grew up seeing. And it still kind of affects me to this day, things that you've seen. But what you see as a forensic imaging professional, what's some of the cases like? How have they affected you? How do you cope with them? You talked about teamwork earlier, but what are some things you've seen maybe and how they affect you and how do you guys cope?
I think it is important that we do check on each other. And I think for the most part, I stay focused on doing the job. There's just like working in a hospital with living patients, there's not time to fall apart emotionally. But it is important, I think, to process it after we're done. And so I go home, think about how grateful I am to be able to go home and for my family that I get to go home to. And it does really give me a new perspective on how lucky I am, even just seeing people's living conditions and circumstances. And it's something you don't see unless you're seeing those crime scene photos or scene photos and their health conditions that they were living with and all that. So it really gives me, focusing on the gratitude for what I have is something that's really important. I think that focusing on the good that I am able to do, and focusing on the task at hand and just paying attention to the details is really important. And this is one of the jobs where I lose track of time because I am just so focused. And or giving myself that minute to like let my eyes tear up when I see this like little, pediatric case, and then bring myself together and focus and realize that I'm doing something that can give answers potentially.
Yeah. I think you mentioned, sorry. I think you mentioned earlier about even homeless, you all do imaging of homeless people that are unfortunately found deceased, and you have to figure out what happened to them.
Right.
Yeah.
It is our protocol. If someone is found outside, they have to come through the office of the medical investigator to determine cause of death.
Yeah. So I mean, people think of just abuse cases, but I think of people who unfortunately are homeless for whatever reason and they pass away. You got to figure out, you have to give their family closure. You have to make sure no crime was committed. And those are things for me, when I see things like that, I would think of my grandfather. What if that was my grandfather? What if that's somebody's grandfather? That's somebody's father.
Right.
Somebody's
uncle.
That's
somebody who served in the military and deserves the same care and respect that anybody does, and might have family somewhere that don't know where they are. The unhoused population they are in a way discarded by our society, and the violence that they experience doesn't seem as important as if it was somebody who we identify with or who looks like us or who we could imagine something like that happening to us. I think it's even more important in those cases that we try to find justice for them.
Yeah, I'm sure you have routines and things that you do, support systems. I appreciate that. It's not that you're turning off compassion, but you still have to do your job. But you do take time for yourself, and you do have a support system. So for those out there that may not work in forensic imaging, but work in imaging or healthcare, and you feel burned out, imagine the different ones like Sheryl who work in different spaces where you see things like this. Learn that you can stay empathetic without being consumed in what you do. And I think that's really a big message here. So thank you, Sheryl, for sharing that. So I want to talk a little bit about why forensic imaging matters. This sounds like an important but overlooked part of medicine to me. It's really important. Why do you think so few technologists, even hospitals, are aware of forensic imaging?
Well, I think that a big reason it's not available to more facilities is that the equipment is expensive. So the cost of a CT scanner, the cost of creating a forensic imaging lab seems prohibitive in some cases. What we are able to show is that long-term it does save a lot of cost, and it is a great tool that can lead to cost savings. So yeah, having that dedicated facility, I think, and just knowing how it can be used and being certain that you can eliminate some of those full autopsies. There may just not be the awareness, and definitely there's not tons of forensic imaging centers, right? And it's highly specialized and we don't need to. I think a lot of forensic imaging, and I'd love to hear from your listeners if they're aware of happening elsewhere, because I have heard a lot of people who do have experience, but I think sometimes they would just use a hospital center, after hours or contract with a facility or something like that, maybe to get those imaging done for special cases. But to process a full caseload every day like we're doing, you do need that dedicated facility. But this facility saves millions of dollars for the state of New Mexico every year.
Yeah, I've worked at a place before. That's what they did after hours. They had a scanner in the basement. This is, a long time ago when you had scanners in the basement of all the hospitals. But that's what they did. They come in after hours. Once the patient load wasn't there, you didn't have the outpatients and everybody in there, and they would just do them down there. The morgue would back up and do it there. But I do want to ask you, what do you see as a future? We see all this AI coming in to, especially imaging. I think I went to a conference and it said imaging in healthcare gets about 80% use of AI. So out of all the healthcare professions, we're affected in a good and bad way by AI 80%. Do you see that filtrating into forensic imaging in any way?
I mean, there's a possibility for it. I mean, it's everywhere, right? And especially like you mentioned in medical imaging, we use it in a lot of different ways. So, the processing algorithms that detect pathology potentially could be used. We're not using anything like that right now, but, I'm sure you're familiar with the, fracture detection software and stroke detection, that kind of thing. Of course, we're not as time bound. We're not treating people. So that like stroke detection type of thing maybe isn't such a big deal.
Yeah.
In forensic imaging, but certainly the pathology detection could aid pathologists, because for the most part, we're not having radiologists read these scans. There are forensic radiologists, and we do have a radiologist here at the hospital who reads all of the skeletal surveys. But the CT scans are being read by the pathologists. So they're not diagnosing every single thing, but they are, picking up on that pathology or injury patterns or things like that. So having that assistance could be a benefit, right?
Yeah, I can see it. AI, I'm very interested to see, but I want to talk too, because I know some of the listeners are saying, how do I learn about forensic imaging? Like, this should be part of a curriculum. Do you see a future in that happening?
I think it would be something that a lot of people are interested in learning about. I think it's really beneficial, because I basically got a couple of days of on the job training, and they're just things that you're not prepared for without having studied it. And so I think I Googled it. There are some continuing education type of activities available in forensic imaging. I know that in our New Mexico Society of Radiologic Technologists, we've had some like dental forensic imaging specialists speak, which is really interesting. In my program that I'm just in the process of developing here at University of New Mexico, we're doing a bachelor's degree in radiologic technology, and I'm working on getting students into clinical rotations, hopefully, so that they can get some exposure and really know if this is something they want to pursue or not. And then or take that experience somewhere and be able to use it in their career.
They can use it to advocate for maybe in their state getting a forensic imaging department. Yeah. I think that's fantastic that, and that's where great directors of programs advance our imaging programs by looking for things such as this, that you see there's a gap in the education and you want to add it to your program. To me, that is, very forward thinking and something that is needed, because so many things are changing. AI is changing, informatics, forensic imaging is growing, unfortunately, but there's a place for it in imaging. And I think it wasn't recognized before. So thank you, Sheryl, for looking at adding that to your school's curriculum. It's just another thing that you can offer students to come out of their education with, and then to use it to advocate for our profession, to make us even stronger within states, right?
Right. Yeah. I think it's important that people know what we're doing and know the scope of everything that's possible, and realize how vital this profession is in many different aspects of life and death.
And I think it's important because every state, in my opinion, should have whether it's small or large, to have a forensic imaging lab. You have a crime lab. Why can't you have a forensic imaging lab attached to it in every state? It would give so many answers to so many deserving families, and justice, hopefully in the right way, to the right people. And CT isn't replacing autopsy, if you guys are thinking that. It's just it's redefining what's possible. Imaging doesn't stop at the hospital door. It follows the truth wherever it leads. Sheryl, this has been a great conversation, but I want to have a few closing remarks by you. If you would like to share anything, educate our audience on what you've been doing as a director, more about your program, so they know how to get in contact with you, and know a little bit more about forensic imaging if you haven't shared anything that you would like to share. What drives you now?
What drives me now is continuously adding tools to my tool belt, my skill set. I'm a person who gets bored, and
Me too.
Yeah, sometimes I start to, get a little worn out and think I'm going to cut down to one job. I'm just going to do one job.
Husband told me don't get any more jobs.
Nobody believes me anymore. The next thing you know, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, this is really fun. Like, I want to try this. So And I think that's what builds resilience. For me, it certainly has built resilience in my career, is that I think it's really important that we all stay focused, stay engaged, stay interested in what we do, because this is really interesting stuff. This is cool stuff that we get to, the technology is so cutting edge. The people that we're helping and serving are so deserving of our care, and what the way we get to impact people's lives in this profession truly is groundbreaking and so important. So continuing to learn, continuing to push myself to do new things, to find new opportunities to grow myself and to provide new opportunities for my students and grow the profession and advocate for the profession. That's what keeps me going. And I do also volunteer with the ASRT. I highly recommend getting plugged into the ASRT or another professional organization that can help you to stay engaged, stay connected to other technologists, listen to podcasts.
Especially a couple of Rad Tech's podcasts.
Yes. Because there's so much that we don't know about if we're in our little corner and just doing our same thing the same way that we've always done it. So people tend to get burnt out, to kind of disassociate from, just doing the same thing over and over again. Humans are like interested people. We're curious and we're creative, and feeding that in your profession, I think, is really a gift. Like, some people have really boring jobs and there's nothing to learn after they learn how to do their job. And we get this opportunity with the technology changing, with the field growing, with the capacity of what we can do with medical imaging growing. There's always something to learn, and being attuned to that and looking for those opportunities is what keeps driving me forward.
I love it. I love it. As a director of a program, I applaud you. You are not sitting back saying, oh, I'm just going to ride this out to retirement. You've gone from clinic to classroom to forensic lab. And now, you are advocating for the profession in your way. And that is truly to be applauded. I want to ask you, because you answered my other question. I think for all of you that are burned out or just kind of questioning where should you go in your career, she gave some really good advice. Rewind this podcast and listen to that advice again. But what lesson do you hope your students and listeners to this podcast take away, if you can just sum it up? What lesson would you say?
I would say that I hope the takeaway is that there are more opportunities out there than you know of. There's technology that you're going to work on that doesn't exist yet. Stay engaged, build your skill set, keep adding to your resume and to your credentials, and stay interested and stay engaged with your profession and your coworkers and other professionals. Surround yourself with people who are doing things that are interesting, and let that drive you forward.
Beautiful.
Never stop learning.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. So if you guys feel stuck, remember, radiology has more doors than you can see right now. I think that was what you told us here. So Sheryl, thank you for opening a door that most of us, and I'm going to include myself, most of us didn't even know existed. We might have heard about it, but we really didn't know all of what you just shared today. You've shown us that medical imaging doesn't just diagnose. It tells stories. It delivers justice. It brings peace to so many people. For anyone listening who's curious about this path, I'll link to Sheryl's information and UNM's Radiologic Sciences program in the show notes. Be sure to check it out. And Sheryl, thank you again for being a guest on a couple of Rad Tech's podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything you do.
Are you looking for an easy way to incorporate more fruits and vegetables into your diet? Look no further than Juice Plus. Juice Plus offers a convenient solution to help you eat more plant-based foods every day. Their fruit and vegetable capsules contain a blend of plant powders that provide essential nutrients, vitamins, and antioxidants from 30 different fruits, vegetables, and berries. Whether you're a busy professional, a student on the go, or simply looking to make healthier choices, Juice Plus can help you get the daily nutrients you need to feel your best. And the best part is, get this, Juice Plus is backed by extensive research, including numerous clinical studies that show the benefits of their products. Plus, they're committed to sustainability and use only the highest quality ingredients. So if you're ready to start eating more plants without the hassle of chopping and cooking, give Juice Plus a try. And if you place your order through my personal link in the description, you're going to receive 5 Tart Cherry Complete Energy Bars as a thank you. So go ahead and order your fruit and vegetable capsules today. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled program.